So do you get it now? Okay, thank you for that. So you realize that once you leave that stage, it's difficult. You can't go back up again. And this methodology, this particular methodology was created by one of the American military general in 1910. So you find the Gantt chart, that thing that goes up, down, 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 was actually invented. The Gantt chart was introduced by the US military in 1910 for the World War I. What happened at the World War I? Did they win? Did they win the First World War? Did they win? Can you all hear me?
Yeah. No.
Did they win the First World War? No, they didn't. They lost. If Gantt chart did not work in World War I don't know why or how we think it's going to work in 2023. And like one of you said, yes, I think it was, who said that? Was it, who said that waterfall is good for smaller projects? Who said that?
Vivian.
Vivian. So Vivian, yes, what that person said might be partially correct.
Yeah, that's the model, not,
yes. So
not the methodology.
Exactly. So it might be partially correct. You see, when you know what you want to do and you understand it end to end, you can use waterfall. But in this day and age, do we all know what can happen tomorrow?
No.
Guys?
No.
No matter how small the project may be. You see, the truth of the matter is, once you don't know what can happen tomorrow, it brings an element of complexity. And because of that element of complexity, that's why you see that many organizations are using agile methodology, because they know that we live in a complex world and things change sporadically. You don't know what can happen tomorrow. You cannot tell what's going to happen next. And because of that, the best way that we can do this is to see that we're thinking out of the box. And that's why when we talk about Agile, Agile has two elements to it. Agile has the science part of it, okay? Does that make sense? And it has the philosophy side of it.
Okay.
It has the doing part of it. It has the philosophy side of it. So we said there's the agile mindset. Agile mindset is being agile. And that's why we say it has a aligned set of values about how to approach the contexts and the associated challenges with things that we're doing and how we can achieve success with it. That's the mindset. We're flexible. We're thinking out of the box. There are sets of values that is guiding that. But there is also the doing part of Agile. And that's where we talk about the methods. That's where we talk about Scrum. That's where we talk about Kanban. That's where we talk about extreme programming. That's where we talk about DAD. That's where we call about FDD. There are different types of them. That's where we talk about less. That's where we talk about safe. There are different methodologies that we have under Agile. That's where we talk about Crystal. But the most popular of them all is, who knows the most popular of all the Agile methodologies? What's the most popular of all the Agile methodologies?
It's Scrum.
Scrum. Why? Why do you think Scrum is the most popular of all of them?
Because it allows you to do it. It allows you to do a step-by-step method to each sprint to allow you to complete a sprint and put it out on the market and still build with it. And if there's a mistake, you can correct it and still put it back on if there's any impediments.
Yeah, that's true. But we can also achieve that with Kanban, isn't it?
Yes.
We can also achieve that. In fact, some Kanban practitioner will tell you that Kanban does more releases than Scrum.
I believe
Right?
Scrum is the most popular Agile framework because it focuses on teamwork, also flexibility and simplicity in solving, why in the production or development of software and its life cycle.
Yeah, but we can also achieve that flexibility with Kanban, isn't it? So you've all tried and well done. What you've said is good. Yes, you're correct. Now, what we need to realize is
Sorry,
Scrum,
apologies.
to an extent.
As somebody's sorry,
Yeah,
apologies.
Olaume is doing that.
So we got your
Oh,
message.
great.
Come on,
Okay,
join.
great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
all right. So if you look at all the, I'll show you some of this. So let's just describe what an agile. What is agile? We'll say that agile is a mindset expressed by values, defined by principles, and it manifests through unlimited practices. Those practices were part of the ones that I mentioned earlier. You see the mindset, you see the value part of it, you see the principles, and then we'll talk about all of the practices like the Scrum, the Kanban, the extreme programming, the DevOps, the TDD, the LESS, the SAFe, the ATDD, the BDD, and many others like that. Okay? Now, when we talk about some of these, you would realize that, let me just show this. Can you see that? There are so many things on the Agile. Now, the reason Scrum is the most popular is because Scrum, one, is somewhat prescriptive. Just as Sadiq said earlier. You see, with Scrum, it's easy for you to know what you are getting when you are getting it. Because why? We work in what we call sprints. We break big things into smaller chunks that we can tell you in the next 2 weeks, this is what we're giving you. And we want to make sure we reach towards getting that. Many organizations are happy with that. Who doesn't like that? Everybody wants to know what you will get, isn't it?
Yeah.
If somebody promises you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you want to know, okay, which of them, when are you giving me what you are giving? Without timeline, will it make sense?
No.
So that's why when we talk about Agile, especially when we talk of Scrum, we say this approach is typically time-boxed. It breaks large complex problems into smaller pieces. So we use iterative and incremental development. But most importantly, in Agile, we emphasize on client satisfaction. And as an ADM, as an Agile Delivery Manager, you need to understand this. Look at the traditional approach. In traditional approach, we're carrying everything at the same time. Can you see the tank that the guy is carrying?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to fail. He's scared to fail. He wants to have a perfect plan. He's multitasking on everything. Do you understand what I'm saying? He just wants to report and report and report just to justify that he has been working very hard. Now, if you look at Scrum, what can you see as the difference? What's the difference between this and this one? What's the difference? What can you see?
It's broken down into
Broken
chunks,
into
which make
smaller
up the total work.
Exactly. He
So
has
small.
broken the entire work into very smaller chunks. For example, in this, I think we have up to 19 or 20. He has broken it down into about 19 manageable chunks or 20 manageable chunks. And guess what he wants to do? When he does that, what he's trying to say is, wait a minute, I'm not going to be able to do everything at once. I want to do it a step at a time. So it breaks it into sprints. Can you see the difference? The difference is this. They have the same starting point, the traditional and the Scrum. They have the same starting point. The red guy is the traditional guy. He started, he's going on straight, non-stop to the final product. Can we see that?
Yeah.
Can you see that? Are you
Yeah.
guys watching?
Yes. Yes.
But when you look at the Scrum guy, look at what he has done. What did he do? He broke it from sprint 0, he broke it to sprint 1. From sprint 1, we go to sprint 2. Every point that you see here, he has opportunity for one thing. What does he have opportunity for?
Inspect and adapt.
Inspect and adapt. That's why you are Agile Delivery Manager. That's why you are not a traditional project manager, guys. So one of the things you want to make sure your team does, apart from some of the things that I've taught you, is the fact that your team needs to be able to work in an agile way of working. It doesn't have to be Scrum. It could be Kanban. And if we have time, we may touch about what Kanban is as well. So if you look at this, he has sprint from 0 to sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. Every time when he finishes a sprint, this sprint can be 2 weeks, it can be 3 weeks, but maximum 4 weeks. We don't allow it to be more than 4 weeks. So does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you will realize that every time there are what we call events, and I'm going to talk about that after now, that throughout this sprint, these 2 weeks, those events will be observed to make sure that we're in line. And then customers or business would have a say to look at what has been done and be able to give approval to say, we're happy with this. Your product owner might be the one that will represent the business to do that. But business needs to have a say to give what we call feedback. And the team would also need to inspect and adapt through a ceremony that we call retrospective.
No, review.
We have the review, but we also have the retro. Review is where the business would come to be able to give you. Then you present what you have, and they are able to give you feedback. But retrospective is for the team to be able to look back at what has happened over the 2 weeks and see how they can get better.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Look at the final stage. Can you see the final stage? The final product here. Can you see where Scrum ends? Can you see where traditional project management ends? When we say traditional, we're talking of waterfall.
Wonderful.
Which one is better?
Agile.
Agile.
Why? Because the client is happy at the end. Don't forget what I said here. Our main focus is to see that we are customer-centric. So if you look at this now, I just want to talk briefly about Scrum for you. This is Scrum framework. All right? I want to believe you all have an understanding of this. Do you? Or is it new to you?
The song.
No, it's not.
No.
Okay. I'll make it big so you can see it properly.
Okay.
All right? So can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
There are three important pillars in Scrum. Number 1, roles. Number 2, the events of Scrum. And number 3, the artifacts of Scrum. The roles of Scrum, the events of Scrum, and the artifacts of Scrum. So these are very important parts. They are important elements of Scrum. When we talk about roles, what are the roles that we have in Scrum, guys?
You have the PO, the Scrum Master, and the
And the
dev
product
team.
owner and
Pardon?
The
And
product owner, Scrum Master, and the
the
dev team.
team.
yeah,
Fantastic. So we have the product owner, we have the Scrum Master, and we have the dev team. Those are the three important roles that we have in Scrum. It's not as though there are no other roles, but those roles are not the pillars of the roles of Scrum. And the reason is because of the important things that these people do. Those individuals, they have special roles that they play in the framework of Scrum. The product owner, the Scrum Master, and the dev team. The product owner prioritizes. He owns the product backlog, and he is the owner of the product. Now, when it comes to the Scrum Master, he's a servant leader. He's a process person. He's a coach. He's somebody that will teach the team how to work in an agile way, how to be able to deliver iterative. He's somebody that will be able to tell them, why are you guys trying to do so many things at the same time? No, don't do that. Let's break it down into smaller chunks. Does this make sense?
Mhm.
And then we have the team that is going to work. And amongst the team, when we say dev team comprises of who and who?
The BA, the QA,
Yeah,
DA, anybody that helps build the product.
Okay, anybody that helps to build the product. So BA is not part of the people that help to build the product. So a business analyst role is not in Scrum. We only try to incorporate it when the work is too much for the product owner. The product owner takes the responsibility of analysis and of commitment and many other things in Scrum. We don't have business analysts as part of the roles of Scrum, but we incorporate it as a hybrid. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Does that make sense to
is
you?
it then?
Yes.
Yeah, so although it's the BA is incorporated, so originally it doesn't mean that it's just the product owner that's charged with the responsibility of writing all the user stories.
The product owner is responsible for getting the features ready for the team. The team can support the product owner in actually writing out their user stories. Now, in some context, the product owner might be the one that will write the user story for them. But when the work is too much, then such teams can get a business analyst that will then be working alongside the product owner to be able to write user stories and be able to do analysis. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
So we've talked about the roles now. We also have the events of Scrum. What are the events of Scrum?
Daily stand-up,
Stand-up
retro,
sprint.
review,
retrospective.
Which other one?
Sprint planning.
Refinement. No, it's not an
Refinement
sprint
is
planning,
an event.
sprint planning.
Okay,
Planning.
we didn't talk about sprint planning, and that's
Sprint
critical.
planning.
We
Yeah.
didn't talk about refinement, and that's critical. Now, there are four major ones that are conventionally taken. The fifth one has been added to it by Scrum.org, and that's refinement section. So we have sprint planning, daily stand-up, sprint review, retrospective, and the refinement session, which we used to call backlog grooming session. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the refinement session is critical for you. It's critical for your team as a delivery manager. You need to make sure that your team, your Scrum Master, supports the team to refine their stories before taking any story into sprints. What's going to happen if they take stories to sprints without being properly refined? What do you think may happen? Yes.
And I have the capacity to work on
Capacity
the
to
stories and meet the sprint goal.
There might not be any incremental there
The
might not be
quality,
any,
the
or
quality
the quality.
of the product will be affected.
Sorry, can you say that again?
The quality of the product might be affected.
Okay. Anybody else?
There might not be any increment for that sprint.
Okay.
When you don't
Anyone
refine
else?
when you don't carry out your refinement meetings, you might have stories that are too big as user stories. As estimates might not be appropriately allocated to them.
Hey, you are all correct. The truth of the matter is, when your stories are not refined, there's every tendency that that sprint will fail. Because you are picking user stories that you don't have understanding of what it takes to deliver it. Does that make sense? And that's why you see that many organizations are waterfalling, thinking they are doing agile, because the team will just pick user stories without refining it. They start to work on it. They get in the middle and they now realize, this user story, we have dependency on that. Oh, and they can't finish the story. Does this make sense? Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
So that's why refinement is important. Refinement is a session where you dissect the story. You dissect it, make sure you fully understand it. The ligament, the sinew is very clear before the team would pick it up. And that's why we talked about what we call DOR. What is DOR?
Definition of ready.
Definition of ready. And when we now make sure that we've done this, it's after we have enough stories refined, then we are able to take those stories into sprint planning. All right? So what do we do at the sprint planning?
The entire team plans on what they have to do, as well as the Scrum Master is in charge of the capacity, what their team have to decide, what they have to commit themselves, how many stories they have to take into the sprint.
The team is not the one to determine that.
The developers, sorry.
No, the Scrum Master should know the capacity of his team. Why should he know the capacity of the team? Why would he know the capacity of the team? Because everybody's availability is made known to him. Does this make sense? So he knows who is going to be in that sprint, and he knows who is not going to be in the sprint. But it's also important to make it visible to everyone. Okay?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, understood.
Okay. So by the time we've done that, when we have refined the story and we know we have enough, at the planning session, we need to have what we call the DOD. What is that?
Definition of done.
Our definition of done needs to be defined so that we know what it means for the stories to be done. And there are so many tools that we can use to be able to understand this better. Okay? If you need details or you need in-depth, we can go into that. Now, it's when you have finished your planning, at the planning, the team commits itself to say, we're going to deliver XYZ amount of story points for the next 2 weeks. And when we say XY amount of story points, it means we'll deliver this story, we'll deliver this, we'll deliver it, based on the product owner's priority. Okay?
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You are not responding.
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay. So after you have done that, that's when you can do your daily stand-up. The daily stand-up, what you want to do is on a daily basis, you are having a check. What are the three important questions you are asking at the daily stand-up?
What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? What impediments do you have?
Yes. What did you do yesterday? What will you be doing today? Then any impediments we want to know. And that's the role of the Scrum Master. To make sure that impediments are removed. Does that make sense? So after they have done that for the 2 weeks, on the last day of the sprint, then the team would have what we call the sprint review. And it's at the sprint review they'll be able to showcase the work they've done. Say, look at the work they've done. This is finished work. And when they get approval, all right, that's when they'll say, well, fantastic, we finished that. And then they can put it where they want to put the rest later. Okay? After we have finished work, that's when we go into sprint retrospective. Huh? And this is where, Tim talks about the opportunity for them to continuously improve. Okay? Are we good?
Yeah, good.
Then we have the artifacts of Scrum. What are the artifacts of Scrum? Anybody wants to tell me? What are the
Product
artifacts?
backlog.
Product increment.
Sprint backlog and increment.
What do you mean product increment?
The increments.
What do you mean product increment?
You would have a sprint goal, and the plan is to have an increment at the end of each sprint.
Okay, but we're talking of the artifacts.
So you have the sprint backlog.
Good. You have the product backlog first.
Increments.
And the
It's
sprint.
from the product backlog that you can have the sprint backlog.
Yeah.
And after that, what are you going to have?
The product increment.
Okay. Okay. So what we want is to see that we have product backlog. And the product backlog is fed throughout the lifestyle of the project, the life cycle of the project. The product owner is the one that will make sure that this gets fed. So what is it that the Scrum does? The Scrum will pick up any story that is refined, that they know how to do it, they understand it, they will work on it, and after working on it, they will commit it or do whatever is agreed to be done. But before they do that, the sprint planning takes place. They tell us how long it's going to take them to do something. Okay?
Yeah.
Are we good?
Good to go.
So with the sprint planning, with the sprint backlog, that's an artifact. Then, after we've done that, what do we have again? We have what we call the burn down chart, the burn up chart, velocity chart, all of those charts. What do you think they are for? What are they for?
They are metrics.
No. It can be. They could be used as metrics, yes. So, but anybody else? So they could be metrics. They are tools that we use to measure the progress, the success, and the speed at which the team is working. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So then we have the daily scrum, as we've said, the artifacts. Then after we finish that, then we have the finished work, which is what Sadiq was referring to when he was saying increments. Okay. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Or you think my trouble is too much?
No,
It's
not
okay.
today is not too much. There's no trouble today.
Today is not too much. You're enjoying it.
It's a good kind of trouble.
This is the ride you have been looking for. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So when we talk about some of these things, I think maybe next week we're going to continue on this. But what I want all of you to do is to be able to meet together and make sure that we work together in understanding these core 3 pillars. You will need to demonstrate to me what needs to be done there. Okay? You have a role play. You need to have a role play where you tell me who the Scrum Master is, who the product owner is, who the developers are, and what you guys could do for each of the ceremonies. You can do that for me, right? I don't want stories. I don't want anybody to come back and say, hey, we've been busy, so we didn't meet. Huh?
Okay.
If you didn't meet, you have to chicken up. If there's no meat, make sure you meet for chicken or fish. All right? You must compulsorily meet, talk through this. Let me know what you understand by it. And let me say it in practical terms. All right? Not by guesses.
So just the roles in Scrum.
The roles, the events, and the artifacts. They are very important.
When are you expecting us to do this, Mr. Femi?
Thursday. I want it on Thursday.
What? Okay.
Somebody said what? Okay, latest by next Tuesday, I want it.
Please, thank you.
Yes,
Next
thank
Tuesday.
you.
Oh.
But the one that I asked you to do before, I want that on Thursday. Okay. All right, guys. Any question?
Mr. Femi, you wrote every 24 hours. What do you mean by that, if I may ask?
I wrote every what?
Every 24 hours. What are you referring to?
Where is that?
Above the sprint 1 to 4 week. Directly under the burn down of.
Yes, that's the daily standard.
Okay, good.
Daily stand-up every day. We meet for daily stand-up is every day, is daily. Throughout that space of 1 to 4 weeks, some will do 1 week sprint, some will do 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. The most popular is 2 weeks. Every 24 hours, we must have our daily stand-up, where we would ask you, what did you do yesterday? What would you be doing today? Any improvements? Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Any other question? Any other question?
No.
Is all clear?
Yes.
See you on Thursday, guys. Okay?
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you for the teaching.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.